All right, we're live. Welcome, everybody. My name is Skai. I'm one of the co-founders here at Gusto, and I'm joined today by a wonderful panel to discuss communicating the value of non-cash benefits. Joining me today, I have Lisa Wallace, the co-CEO at Assemble. Say hi, Lisa.
Hey, everyone. Glad to be here.
We've got Octavio from Alpine Rewards.
Hey, everybody.
And Shelley, former kind of HR expert and pro, tons of experience. Shelley, thanks for joining us again. You want to say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Okay, great. Lisa, I'd love to start with you. If you could just kind of tell us a little bit about Assemble and kind of your background, because I think that will kind of be a great way to kind of segue us into non-cash benefits.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of a company called Assemble. We do kind of full stack compensation management for total rewards teams of kind of mid-sized to enterprise businesses. My background is actually leading teams of many sizes, kind of working alongside total rewards functions to try to drive good compensation decision making. And we kind of cover compensation through the full kind of reward suite. So whether that is cash or equity-based compensation, all the way to non-cash benefits, both in terms of kind of helping companies manage that, make sure that's efficient, but also communicating the value of that to employees, which is, of course, really important.
All about kind of today's topic. Octavio, do you want to give us a little bit of background on Alpine Rewards and your kind of experience with non-cash benefits?
Yeah, great. So Alpine Rewards is a advisory firm that focuses on all things kind of monetary rewards, but also some of the non-monetary like job architecture, career path. And so we focus primarily in the exec comp and the employee reward space, but also we focus on the tech and the life science communities as well, but also other sectors as well. I've been doing this for about 20 years, and so I'm really looking forward to the conversation today.
Okay, awesome. And Shelley, again, you've had a number of kind of jobs in kind of the total reward space. Where have you kind of come across kind of non-cash benefits?
Pretty much in almost all of the locations, whether it was healthcare, working for hospitals, or financial, working for insurance companies, Blackberry, IKEA, retail, you name it, always in the reward space. And non-cash benefits were so critical. So I'm excited to talk about this today. My staff would say, Shelley never stopped communicating. That was the big piece, was the communication. And I learned early in my career in human resources, you're often passing on news that an employee may not want to hear or a leader may not want to hear. So I kind of made it my mandate that you may not like this, but you're going to understand it. And so communication was really part and parcel of everything I did or my team did with regards to rewards.
Okay, awesome. And I see we've got some comments coming in here. So would love to hear if you are tuning in, kind of where you're at and maybe kind of what sort of role you're in or how you're kind of interacting with non-cash benefits or maybe some of the questions that you might have around that. And we'll see if we can kind of integrate those into the conversation. So Lisa, I'm going to come back to you. Let's start kind of like, what are non-cash benefits? Octavio or mentioned job architecture, career paths, but let's just kind of get the lay of the land. So what are non-cash benefits?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a number of different ways that you can define non-cash benefits, and the bucket of non-cash benefits that a company offers is going to be different depending on the industry that they're in, the types of employees that they serve, et cetera. But it would be anything that isn't salary, at least in my definition. That could include even stock-based compensation. So if you're giving a company stock options, all the way down to things like healthcare benefits, benefits around office culture, things like that, or non-cash kind of benefits similar to what Gusto does in terms of employee recognition. And then if you want to kind of further extend the definition to really encompass what a modern total rewards function does, it would be things like career opportunities, career pathing, maybe associated with the job architecture, et cetera. So what an employee kind of gets out of going to a company, whether that relates to their wellness and experience, relates to their compensation in some level, or relates to opportunities that they would be rewarded with in service of their, services to the company.
Mm-hmm. We think about kind of like the employee experience, right? And so many people are kind of like looking to grow in their careers. And so if companies can provide those learning and development opportunities and provide those career paths, it's a big incentive for people to kind of stick around at the company beyond just the salary. So Octavia, let's go to you. Like, why are non-cash benefits important to employees?
I think they're important to employees because it really kind of makes it the whole picture of what a company is offering, right? I think a lot of times employees really focus on the monetary, right? I'm going to leave this company because I'm getting X amount of base salary increase, but they fail to kind of look at that whole picture of what a company is offering, right? So it's not just kind of essentially, the base salary and the, short-term incentive bonus, but it's also kind of the recognition that maybe their manager gives. It's also kind of that career path that they have laid out in front of them. It's also essentially, kind of the working environment, right? A lot of times people don't quit because of the base salary. They quit because of the work environment and or the manager, right? So it's really kind of all those other things that are very important to kind of an employee's whole, kind of perspective. And I think sometimes they don't realize it until they leave that great company that they say, oh man, I wish I would have had all those things like that mentorship program that our company had, or right, the opportunity I have to work on these great products. I don't have that, but I have a higher base now and I'm miserable. So it's really kind of looking at that whole picture.
Okay, awesome. So let's build on that. Shelley, you mentioned kind of communication at the top of the conversation. Why do you think some employees kind of might not value non-cash benefits?
I think there's two aspects to it in particular that jump out for me. One is they don't know about all of the non-cash benefits that are actually there, right? There's so much information to communicate to an employee with regards to total rewards or employee value proposition, all of these things we've been talking about, that sometimes we miss the mark, quite honestly. And employees come on board, they get oriented or they get mentored in with somebody or whatever. And it's years later, they realize, wow, there's something I could have been taking advantage of. There's this really great benefit, et cetera. So they sometimes don't know the value just because they don't see it, and then, or even know it exists. And then sometimes, like O said, it's to actually place that value on it and realize that there might be an intrinsic value to them around that reward, and that can be more than the salary raise or the compensation increase type of thing, because they see that it goes in their pay and then it's gone, as opposed to something like a recognition at the right time that's really impacting that employee who might have been thinking about leaving, who might think that their leader doesn't value how hard they're working, and now suddenly they get this acknowledgement of that, and it's like that. It's hard to put a price on that.
Mm-hmm. And we work here at Gusto with a lot of organizations that have frontline workers, right? And so communicating with frontline workers, whether it's about kind of non-cash benefits or L&D programs or what have you, can be really challenging. So what have you seen, Shelley, kind of work in terms of actually getting those comms out to all the employees?
Yeah. One of the biggest ways I believe in some of the communication out to employees is through the leader. Particularly if you're lucky enough to have leaders on the floor in the front line, or you can free your leaders up so they can be there with their employees, whether it's in the lunchroom or on the breaks or in their one-on-ones, just to be and have those leaders understand the total reward strategy, have them know it, and provide them with simple, easy information, and then they convey it. One of my favorite things I can remember was IKEA, where it was very simple, of course, very lean, aligned to their culture. But they did a lot of work for our leaders to understand the total reward strategy. We were not going to be the highest payer, but we can move a little bit more on benefits. We're going to provide benefits to part-timers, which back then very few people were, and very, very clear about these things. And I remember an interview once I was participating in where a leader was recruiting. And in the interview, the leader went up to the whiteboard and drew the total reward strategy. They said, here's where we are on comp. Here's where we are on base salary. Here's where we are on benefits. But we have these other things, and we've got all these opportunities. I'm a leader now. I started in carts. So there's huge opportunities. There's travel. There's this. And it was just, you could watch the person just absorb it all in. and make a decision around whether they wanted to work for this organization. Because here was a leader communicating, not somebody in human resources, but the actual leader talking about these rewards and recognition in this organization.
So you'd actually kind of train the leader, but then get the leader kind of to be the champion in kind of informing others. Yeah, I think that's smart. And, it makes me think of kind of our colleague Kwesi that often talks about kind of like the synthesizer analogy, right? Where you've got kind of like 10 or 20 dials, and you can't just blast everything to the top and say, we're going to pay top of market, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. We have to kind of pick and choose what our kind of total compensation strategy is there. And I really like that idea of kind of like giving your leaders kind of visuals on, hey, here's what our strategy is around that.
Right.
And
right.
I could add to that. I would just say, right, really, we need our leaders to lead from the front, because, right, that really gives permission to a lot of employees, right? I was talking to my employee and they were saying, when my leader takes the day off, then I know that I have permission to take it off. So like, you may give extra PTO days, but the leader's working on that PTO day. Guess what? The employees are going to work on that day as well. And so it really gives them permission, as well as you were saying, we really need them to be the champion of these programs, to really kind of say, I'm leading from the front, so I'm going to publicly acknowledge my employees. It's sort of like your platform, right? You can put out announcements in recognition of essentially how employees are doing. And we need to see the leaders kind of there doing that as well. So that gives people permission to say, hey, I want to do that as well. I want to recognize my peer, or I want to recognize a colleague. So that way, everybody kind of falls in line. They really, truly are the champions of these non-monetary rewards.
Yeah. Sure. Oh, you're spot on there. I mean, we see all the time kind of recognition programs fail, where leadership will kind of implement these programs and ask, mid-level managers to kind of be using it to recognize their teams or whatnot. But then they're using something else to kind of, run their leadership recognition program, or, they're taking people on trips or taking people out for lunch, and they're not using the system internally to recognize the management. And it just kind of all breaks down if leadership isn't setting that example. Lisa, I want to come back to you, because Assemble does a great job of this, right? And so how, in your experience, kind of both through your product and obviously kind of working with clients, have you been successful in kind of training leaders on the value of non-cash benefits?
Yeah, it's a great question. By the way, I've never heard the lever metaphor, but I'm going to steal that because it's great. I think anytime you have a conversation with administrators and you're talking about administrators of programs, whether it's company leaders or whatever, and you're having a conversation about rewards, you need to have a realistic conversation trained in their resources. And what they're looking to do is obviously attract and retain talent, but too often what kind of also gets sort of forgotten about is motivate and ensure talent is productive over the course of the lifetime that they're at the company. And that's a lot of what non-cash rewards to me tends to be about. Mm-hmm. So at Assemble, we touch on a couple of these kind of pieces. So one of them would be just communication of non-cash rewards as part of the full rewards package to employees. But one of the bigger kind of aspects of Assemble as a platform is enabling cross-functional collaboration across kind of one common operating picture. So in Assemble, you can have employees log in and understand their rewards. You can have candidates that are looking at joining the company kind of see the same thing. You can have administrators quantify that, and then you can have managers log in at the same time, whether they're line level managers that are communicating directly with individual contributors or managers of managers. And the good thing about that is you can see not just kind of what you're offering and ensuring that you're communicating the value to all stakeholders, whether it's employees or people that communicate with employees, because a lot of managers are the ones that are delivering these messages. But you're able to also instrument your entire reward strategy and understand how effective it is. And that's one thing that I would really kind of encourage people to think about. So Shelley, you're clearly great at this, kind of understanding not just what are the non-cash rewards that we're offering a company, but how can we measure whether they're effective or not. Part of that is probably utilization of the reward itself. Part of that is also kind of understanding whether employees understand them through like employee surveys. But that would be kind of what Assemble facilitates.
That's awesome. And so like, let's go to you on that, Shelley, kind of measuring the impact of non-cash rewards. What have you seen kind of work there?
Well, I think the impact's really important. I'm a huge proponent of like surveying employees. and asking them for input on, is this working? Is that working? Are you, do you have enough communication? Do you have enough information on this? Do you understand our benefits? Do you understand what the strategy is? Do you know how to sign up for this or that, or how all this works? But what's really key to that too is to have the employees trust that change can actually happen as a result of those surveys. So, that they really do have a voice, because a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to participate in the survey. That's just information that goes in. We never hear anything about it, et cetera. It's really a valuable piece when the feedback from the survey actually comes back out to the employees. And, we heard in the survey that people want to know X, Y, and Z, or they want to better understand how the RRSP or 401k programs work. And so then the next thing they know is a you asked it type of a thing. You asked for this, so now we are going to do seminars or whatever on 401k, so you as employees see it. As simplest little things. I can remember in retail, the employees were like, we want to know what's in the salad dressing, because like I'm on a diet and I want to eat properly, and like this is what's in the lunchroom all the time, and I don't know. So we would put, here's the new labels on the salad dressing. This is the amount of calories, et cetera, et cetera. And we would put a little, this is here because you asked for it. This was your voice. These are changes as a result of your voice. So employees really did feel they have a voice, and therefore would participate and say, yeah, this is working. So that measurement piece comes from the employees themselves, as well as, you can partner with your insurance companies to check your usage to see what's really happening around the benefits.
Yeah, so much of kind of just being a great HR function is listening, right? And it's one of kind of our core values here at Gusto, both internally listening to employees, but also kind of listening to customers as we kind of build our product. Octavio, we've got a question here from one of our audience members. I'd like to kind of throw this one your way. Sometimes it feels like the company doesn't want to communicate the non-cash benefits because they actually don't want employees to use them. Maybe they use them as kind of a bit of a recruiting tool, but then don't actually want people using them. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I haven't seen too many companies that try to put it out there as far as saying to lure candidates in, because if you're using it only for candidates and not for the current employees, then eventually you're going to experience some turnover, and essentially you're going to be as Shelley was saying, you're going to lose some trust. So I haven't quite seen that. What I've seen is kind of what Shelley was saying is surveying employees and really kind of seeing what works, and looking at your demographics to say, do we have, people that are kind of maybe later in their life stage that needs maybe some help with financial planning as they get ready for retirement, or maybe some, 529 plans so they can plan for their kids, tuition, Or do we have younger employees that need help with that tuition reimbursement or other programs? Maybe it's that last mile transportation allowance that they need. So that's where I think, I've seen a lot of companies do is really survey and really ask people like, what do you want? What's really working? And then looking at those usage rates of like what programs are really being utilized. And I think a lot of benefits brokers will kind of tell you that they essentially will look at that and come back to the TR leaders to say, here's what's really being utilized. Here's what's not so much. So you may want to kind of make some changes on your benefits programs.
And Shelley, you touched on this kind of earlier in the conversation, just around intrinsic value, right? And communicating kind of that intrinsic value to employees. What do you do when you've got kind of like a really broad employee base, right? All the way from kind of millennials, Gen Zs to kind of boomers. You think about these kind of frontline organizations, right? And you've got kind of a really wide age gap there. Everybody kind of needs something a little bit different. How do you think about kind of putting together a total rewards kind of strategy when there are kind of all these different kind of demands?
Yeah, for sure. The first thing that comes to mind for me is design programs that allow for some choice and control. Like I've been in organizations where we actually made that part of our strategy, that the reward systems would not just be well communicated and clear and easy to understand, but that the reward systems would allow for choice and control on the part of employees wherever they possibly could. So I can opt out of that benefit and opt in for this one, or I can, because then you're catching that broad base, not right. You're allowing employees to potentially pick and choose or even change benefits based on their life stage. Different benefits are more important at different points in their career and in their life, right? And so to have that opportunity for them to be able to pick and choose to say, no, I'm not going to go for that. I'm going to go for this because this is more valuable to me right now. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think about here internally, right? Like we give employees the option to take stock options in the company or not, right? If they have a base salary, if they'd like, some additional base salary, we'll give them that, or they can kind of choose to take options in the company. Lisa, we've got a comment here on kind of O's point. Did you want to kind of touch on this, kind of communicating non-cash benefits in a different way to kind of different age groups? Is that something that kind of Assemble helps with?
I mean, I would say this is a delicate topic because it is illegal to miscommunicate benefits, some benefits that, to certain groups versus not, or for things like family leave to not give it to, everybody in a particular employee class. So I would be like pretty specific about that in terms of what you can and cannot legally provide and not provide to different employees. But I do think that the communication needs are different based on the class of employees. And I think that's true, if you're dealing with age or life stage, in terms of the level of understanding and even just the utility that they get out of the benefit. So like the classic example that I always use is if you let's say you're in the tech industry, you've got a lot of privately held stock options that you're giving as a rewards benefit. I don't think that makes a parent that's looking for more salary a culture fit to choose more salary instead of, or not a culture fit to choose not more salary instead of more stock options. It's just maybe a reflection of the fact that they're trying to pay tuition or something like that. So I think Shelley's point is maybe more apt here, which is that you want to make sure that you are allowing for flexibility of benefit and kind of really scrutinizing what the cultural implication is to different benefits offerings, and then maybe what the employees are choosing with some kind of sensitivity to that. And then the other thing I would say is just this notion of constantly communicating the value of rewards is really important because it's really hard to understand what employees understand at a given time. And it can surprise you. Even managers or people that are fairly sophisticated can forget the value of various benefits or misunderstand it or whatever. And so I would kind of always verify in a variety of different ways rather than just trust everybody understands something because you've delivered that value or you discussed it at your, company kickoff or whatever 6 months ago.
Yeah, it is shocking to me as a leader at this company, just how often we need to kind of like keep coming. And we're not a big company, right? Like yeah. I can imagine it gets harder at scale. And it really is kind of an exercise in kind of just repeating and making sure, kind of you're really doing your best to get the message out there. Oh, you're kind of out in the field talking to clients. What are some of the kind of current challenges that you're really kind of seeing surface on the total reward side around kind of non-cash benefits?
Yeah, I think really kind of what we're seeing is that communication and TR statements, right? So something that Assemble helps companies with, whether they're employee or whether they're a candidate. Really, I think a lot of companies are really struggling to get that whole picture out to say, not only here's kind of monetary, but right, we really need you to kind of understand we have all these other things. I worked with an automotive company in the past. And, it was really challenging for them to hire, individuals, engineers, whether it was here or kind of, middle of the country. And one of the things that they said is like, if we can just get the people to kind of our website or get them to look at our compensation, our benefits package and all the non-monetary work, like we'll win them over. And kind of that was kind of their big struggle. And that's something I consistently hear from clients is just, communicating that whole picture of what we're offering, right? It's just not this piece of the pie. It's this much larger piece. It's all part of our employee value proposition. So with those non-monetary kind of benefits, it's other things of like the work environment and the engagement that you're going to get from leadership to work with you and mentor you and give you that career path. Those are the things that I think companies struggle with it really kind of getting out there.
And do you see, companies and clients of yours that are doing a really good job of this, leveraging that into kind of better employer branding around kind of Glassdoor and other sites where employees are kind of leaving reviews about their experience?
Yeah, I think the best, what I've seen companies do that do it well is really kind of their employees speak for them. So whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on other kind of social medias, right? So as I was talking to some of our own employees, they say, I never talk to them about what Alpine does, or really talk about what, kind of Alpine's about. And I think, as they kind of promote that and push that out there, that really kind of gets out there into the atmosphere that, here's a great company to work for. And they're going to, obviously take care of the monetary stuff, but they have all these non-monetary things. And I really think, as employees kind of are your champions and pushing it out there, especially on social media, that's really the big win for companies. And that's where I've seen clients that successful is have their employees, kind of communicate and, shout it from the mountaintops.
Yeah, no doubt it will kind of help you recruit other employees and attract talent to your team. But there's got to be benefits on kind of the business side as well, like the customer facing side, right? Like if employees, Shelley, maybe you can kind of touch on kind of your experience working at IKEA and just how people kind of felt working there and, all of the things that you did around kind of non-cash benefits and what that actually drove in terms of kind of like a customer facing experience.
All of it massively drove the culture, because employees loved working there so much. It used to be a standing, line that like we didn't have to kind of really look far because our list of people that wanted to come in and work for the company was so strong, right? And so those people were their best ambassadors, the employees themselves, how happy they were, what they were doing, how successful. They were forever recommending other people to come on board and work for the company as well. Because communication was so strong, because those non-monetary cash, non-cash rewards were communicated particularly through leaders, and were simple to understand and comprehend. I think employees felt that, and they exhibited it. So people would, say like, as a cashier, do you like working here? And people would say, oh my goodness, it's the best place ever. There's an application form online. Here's the number, here's code, and make those kinds of recommendations and support those frontline people as well, right? Whether it was, their surveys, making sure they had time off to complete the surveys and time off for training and time, paid time, all of those kinds of things. One of the really huge ones that kind of goes outside of what you would normally traditionally think of as rewards or benefits was their actual scheduling as part-timers. So there was a massive commitment from leaders that part-time employees would know their schedule at least 3 weeks in advance. And that's huge if you're working part-time, because it's acknowledging, hey, just because I'm not a permanent full-time employee here, I still have a life. I still need to schedule my life and my daycare and my kids and my school and whatever else is going on, or my other 2 part-time jobs in my life. And so it was this huge commitment that other retailers weren't doing. And, I put that down as it was a reward. It was part of the value proposition. If I work here, I get treated the same as the permanent full-time employees. And therefore, I'm going to commit just as much as those permanent full-time employees, right? That was big.
I love that example. Lisa, I'd love to hear from you and actually kind of what are some of the coolest, interesting non-cash benefits that you've kind of come across?
Oh, okay. I got to think about that. That's not the question I thought you were going to ask. But as Shelley was talking, I was kind of thinking that just kind of speaking to the general themes, maybe in the questions that people have been asking. I do think that if you are not supplying the narrative as the employer around how people should value the rewards or whatever, that employees will fill in the narrative themselves. Compensation is really emotional, and a lot of it has to do with things like trust and kind of how people feel valued. And so if you're not proactively supplying that type of narrative across all employee classes for all the rewards you provide, then I think you should wonder what people are thinking, because people are thinking something. So,
Totally.
So the general idea of being proactive is good. I mean, I'll say one. So we are friends with a company called Strava, which is the running app.
Yep.
They have some of the coolest rewards that are related to their culture. So they have like a marathon or like race stipend for any kind of athletic race on a quarterly basis. They've got gym stipends. They've got like a yearly athleisure stipend. There are quite a few different things that are all related to kind of creating a culture of activity across the company, which I thought was like fairly creative, especially given the type of business that they're all in. and the culture that they have at the business. I would say that was
very cool. Kind of fits with the brand there. Oh, have you seen any kind of really interesting ones?
Yeah, I've seen a couple interesting ones. So one of them that kind of, jumped out when I was actually on site at the client, and this was some years ago. It's a gaming company. So one of their service awards that they give is actually these large swords, because that's their game that they had, and they would give helmets and shields. And so, it's like, is this safe to be walking around with all these swords in everybody's queues? But people loved it. They really kind of wanted it. They wanted to get that. It showed really kind of where they were at in the company, depending on if they had a sword or a shield or a helmet. I think another really, cool one as well, as I recently learned about, is a Thrive Award, which is essentially you get allotted X amount of dollars a month that you can reimburse, and you just can't just use it for yourself. You could use it towards a bike for your kid. You could use it for your kid's tuition. You could use it for gym membership, or kind of to give that as a social contribution to an organization. So as long as you kind of reimburse it, and you felt that it was going to contribute to your wellness, it could be commuter kind of gas as well for your carpool buddies. It essentially gets reimbursed you, no questions asked. And it was a great program because, right, we talk about wellness, we talk about these, but then we put all these parameters around the employees. So this program really kind of opened it up for people to really kind of essentially do whatever they need in their life to make their life better.
Shelley, you seem to have kind of a point here.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I also I love those ideas, and I think it's really important for employers to also think about rewards as what they want to do right here and now, and that it doesn't have to be permanent and forever. So, get to the employees or the organization with what's happening right now. Large insurance company relocated from, a spot right downtown where they were in the hub of all the restaurants and the grocery stores and everything else for employees, to a part where there was nothing. Like, it was just kind of like a wasteland, and employees had no place to go for lunch, So immediately they offered up fruit, like every day in the lunchroom, there was fruit. We got a budget, and just for employees to be able to, add it to their lunch or whatever, because most of the time they were having to brown bag it or whatever, but it just meant so much. And then over time, as things built up around the organization, they realized, people weren't eating the fruit. It wasn't, switch it to Fridays. And then eventually it went away. Or at Blackberry, when Kwesi introduced Ice Cream Fridays, because we were trying to bring people together. And again, it was a location that there was nothing around, and let's have it on Fridays, because we really wanted people in the office and collaborating and being together. So you'd have people, I'm going to make the commute out to Waterloo on Friday because it's Ice Cream Friday, and some of the best deals are happening while people are out there having their little ice cream break. So, that's part of the culture.
And speaking of kind of change, right? So I worked with one company, and they gave an award of essentially, kind of play against kind of some outside. So it was another gaming company to play against, another team that's outside of the company. And it wasn't really, nobody really kind of got jazzed about it. But when they introduced, hey, we're going to essentially, you can play against the leaders of the company, then it was like, oh yeah, it's on, game on. Like, let's play, right? As well as they got to meet the leaders, right? If they're in the same locations. And so it was really impactful. But as Shelley said, right, it changed. They introduced it. They saw that what was working, what wasn't, and then they modified it.
Yeah, tweaking it. I think about a lot of volunteer initiatives, right? Getting kind of groups of people out and that opportunity to kind of meet leaders and do some good in the community together is another great one. Lisa, we've got a question here from an audience member, Jose, asking us to speak more about the possible tax repercussions that non-cash benefits may positively or negatively affect. This probably comes up a lot in your world. Can you touch on this?
Yeah, I mean, it does come up a lot, but I would say that we always refer people to accountants or to lawyers. Just in general, I don't want to speak necessarily to the tax implications. That's not necessarily Assemble's core competency when it comes to managing rewards, although there are tax implications to how you reward employees, whether it's directly as part of their, their W-2 or, something related to a benefit that you're providing as part of an office experience or, something else.
Yeah, this comes up in the recognition world all the time, right, Shelley? We have lots of clients asking for kind of tax advice, and it's a very kind of similar answer, right? We can speak to, what we've heard from other clients and whatnot, but we're always going to kind of refer you over to kind of your accounting teams to make sure that you're kind of doing things right. And every country, state, province, there seems to be kind of different rules. So definitely check with the experts. Shelley?
It's another great example, though, of how communication is key, because you have to do that. If, there's a tax implication, there's a tax implication. Don't hide that. And then the employee sees it on their T4 or their, right? Let's have that as part of the communication.
Yep.
Even, if it's in the small print, but it still needs to be out there. Let's own it, be honest about it. And if you have the opportunity to have choice and control, so that the employee may be able to say, no, you know what, that's not worth it for me. Or actually, yeah, that's pretty meaningful. I understand it. That's the law. This is the way it is. But go ahead, make that part of your communication drive.
I think about, some of our clients, obviously with recognition and rewards, there is a kind of cash component to it, right? And then depending on kind of what program it is, and we've had clients kind of asked to add disclaimers when people are claiming their rewards that say, hey, this is a taxable benefit and, will be kind of taxed, just so that, everything is kind of transparent there. A follow-up question here from Jose around kind of what leaders can do using non-cash benefits to bridge the gap between cash bonus eligible management and the ill feelings that non-bonus eligible employees may have. Shelley, Lisa, anybody kind of have any thoughts on this one?
I mean, my thoughts are that you set the narrative as the company, right? So you have to be really proactive around the types of rewards that you're offering, what the narrative is around bonus eligible management, how have you kind of broadcasted that in the past to create a situation where people might feel like they are being kind of passed over? And then what are you doing when it comes to other non-cash rewards? It's actually a great example of how non-cash rewards can be really valuable as part of a reward strategy, especially for people that are not in management, if your bonus program is associated exclusively with management.
Yeah, totally. Have you seen something work really well here, Shelley?
Just lots of communication around, in order for bonus to be achieved for this group, this has to happen. This is part of their job. You know what I mean? And you actually, right, as opposed to say the sales group or this group, and have people be aware that there's all these various measures that are attached to it, right? Because it can also be very complex. And even amongst employees that are all eligible, you will have a population that will think, how did they determine the bonus this year? Would you just throw up numbers in the ceiling and see what landed? And you have to be as transparent as possible. No, this is how the numbers come out. This achieves this achieves that. And, I've actually seen where non-bonus eligible employees were like, yep, I don't want to be responsible for that. I get it. Like, I understand where that falls. Or they want more communication around how they could, in fact, be eligible for something like that. How can they affect the business to have that piece of that pie? And then that becomes great focus groups, interesting discussion. And like you said, Lisa, set the narrative for the organization in terms of what's your strategy. Do you want to have these different various groups and make people eligible or non-eligible? Or do you want to make it more inclusive and have different measures?
Yeah, I think whether it's a bonus policy or some sort of other non-cash benefit, if there is kind of some sort of trigger or event that will kind of allow people to unlock some sort of benefit, it can't be an announcement at the start of the year and then it's just dark until the end of the year and then people find out whether it happens or not, right? It needs kind of like that weekly or at least kind of monthly update as to like how you're tracking against the KPIs that might kind of trigger those benefits so that people know on an ongoing basis, whether it's going to happen, how they might be able to kind of impact or whatnot. This has been a great.
After that, if you don't mind, I would say it's right. As Shelley was saying, it's an opportunity for the company to communicate, one, what is the total reward strategy? And then what is your path to get to there if you really, truly want it? But also, too, it's an opportunity for the company to kind of, as Shelley said earlier, right, is to make a pivot and to change and say, is this something that a lot of our employees are feeling, right? So if we do a survey and they feel like they're being treated as second-class citizen, is there something that we can do here to kind of show them that they're not and that they're valuable? Maybe it's not kind of a cash bonus program, but it's something else that we can do for them in order to kind of make them, feel whole and to make sure that they feel like they're not being forgotten. It's an opportunity to kind of have a meaningful discussion with your kind of management team, as well as potentially with the employee and the manager to talk about here's how you can get to those levels where you kind of get that cash bonus opportunity.
I think this is an area where peer-to-peer recognition just shines, right? And giving employees the ability to kind of recognize their colleagues and not relying kind of solely on managers to do that, and really kind of building that kind of culture of recognition, especially for kind of organizations with that kind of, frontline workforce that may not kind of participate in all of the programs that head office might have.
Right. And I think one of the great things too about your platform, right, is you have that opportunity not only to do that public recognition and put it public or put it private, but also too, right, if they do choose to kind of give a gift card to one of their colleagues, one of their peers, they can customize, as you were saying, right? And so they can pick the one that actually fits best for them, whether it's a Target gift card, whether it's a Starbucks coffee card, or maybe it's something else. They have the ability, kind of your platform, in order to kind of choose that gift that's right for them or for their friend, so they can personalize it.
Totally. Team, this has been a wonderful conversation. I've got a ton of notes, some takeaways. Look forward to kind of posting on LinkedIn with some of the ideas that all of you kind of shared. Lisa, if people want to get a hold of you, where's the best place to kind of do that?
Definitely LinkedIn. I am the most responsible on LinkedIn, but Assemble's domain is actually assemble.inc. Or you could just Google Assemble compensation and find it really easily. I am more than happy to walk anybody through the Assemble platform, or just speak to the value of total rewards in general as part of or non-cash rewards as part of a total reward strategy, for sure.
Fantastic. And Octavio, where can folks find you?
So, people can check out our website at www.alpine-rewards.com, or they can connect with me on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty responsive on it, and I'll get back to them pretty quickly.
Fantastic. And Shelley, how about yourself?
LinkedIn as well. I semi-retired and consulting, but absolutely you can still reach me on LinkedIn. Great.
Well, hope you're enjoying retirement. If anybody's looking for help with their recognition reward programs, you can check out Gusto. That's 2U, so GUUSTO.com, or message me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there as well. So thank you, everybody. Lisa, Shelley, it's been awesome to connect with you, and look forward to kind of following all of you. And Lisa, I hope we get to do kind of more work together with Assemble.
For sure. Would love to.
Okay.
Thanks
wonderful.
so much.
Have a great day, everybody.
You too.
Thanks, all. Bye.